Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and good afternoon to all. First and foremost, I would like to welcome to all, especially to our distinguished panelists for today. Let me introduce once again our panelists. On my right, we have Dato Saifuddin Abdullah, the Deputy Minister of Higher Education. And we have yang berbahagia Dato Muhammad Khairun bin Tan Sri Aseh, Chairman of UMNO Youth Complaints Bureau and also Exco of UMNO Youth. And yang berbahagia Dato Kamarul Rashdan Haji Saleh, Managing Director of Syarikat Perumahan Negara Malaysia SPNB. New politics, fresh wave of politics. Should the young people embrace it? What is politics? Politics is the art or science of influencing people's belief on a civic or individual level. But what is new politics? Does this mean that the traditional or the old approaches by political parties are not relevant anymore? Or why do we need to tackle this new approach? Is it just merely being pragmatic to adapt to the young generation? I guess we shall get the answer from the speakers. I would like to invite first Dato Saifuddin to start.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Saudara pengerusi, my co-panelists, kedua-dua Datuk K, my beloved brothers and sisters. Pertama sekali saya nak ucapkan setinggi-tinggi terima kasih kepada pihak penganjur yang sudi menjemput saya bersama pada tengah hari ini. I'm told by the chair, before we came to this hall, that each of us will be given about 12 to 15 minutes. And then we will go to Q&A. I will try to observe the time because I want to avoid a situation where somebody will come and ask me to listen. And pull away the microphone. Okay, why do we need new politics? I started writing about new politics in 2006. In my column in Berita Harian. Before 2006, we had an election in 2004, and general election, and another general election was in 1999. After 1999 election, there was some discussion, there were some discourses on new politics, and the meaning of new politics by those people who were promoting the idea was about trying to explain what happened in the general election in 1999. And there was some kind of excitement that there will be a new regime or a new government after general election 2004. At least 2 books were published using New Politics as the title. Both were compilations of articles and papers. One was published by UKM Press, the other was published by ICIS, Institute of Southeast Asian Studies in Singapore. But history has it that in 2004, the Barisan Nasional won with a big landslide, and then there was no more talks about new politics. But I decided in 2006 to revisit this notion of new politics with a different perspective, with a different angle, with a different goal. It is not about changing government, but it is about changing the way we do politics. About doing politics that is much healthier, about saying no to dirty politics, about saying no to money politics, about corruption, and so on and so forth. In 2008, I published a book, which is actually a compilation of the articles that I wrote from 2006 to 2007. And to me, there are four thrusts of new politics. There can be 6, there can be 8, there can be 10. And let me, at the outset, impress upon you that there is no real definition about new politics. I have my views on certain things, but I'm very open about it. And so I don't pattern, and I don't claim that I coined the term new politics. Yeah. New simply means we need to do things better. New simply means we have to bring the political discourse to a higher level. New simply means we have to govern as a government in a better way. Now, let me briefly share with you what are the four thrusts of new politics as I see it. First of all, it's about integrity. Why do we join politics? There must be a good reason why someone joined politics. It's not to gain wealth, it's not to be rich, but because you want to serve the people, you want to serve the country. And I use the term idealism as the reason that makes someone join politics. Idealism can be defined many ways. You can call it principle, you can call it something that is dear and near to your heart, you can call it altruism, you can call it goodness of the heart, you can call it volunteerism. I mean, you can call it in any way that you are comfortable with, as long as it means that you join politics not for your own interests, but for the interests of the many, for the good of all. And what is meant further by idealism? It means that you want to advocate some ideals, some ideas. And so I introduced this notion about knowledge politics, that you have to have some kind of knowledge about politics and about what you want to do if you become a politician or if you lead a political party at whatever level. It rhymes better in Malay than in English. Yeah. So saya katakan kita kena menghidupkan politik ilmu, bukan politik ampu. Politik hikmah, bukan politik fitnah. Dan politik bakti, bukan politik undi. The second thrust of new politics to me is new governance framework. We are all familiar about good governance, about transparency, accountability, and so on and so forth. These are all good ideals which I subscribe to and should be part and parcel of new governance framework. But what is meant by new governance is to ensure that all stakeholders have a role in nation building. For a long, long time, until Najib became Prime Minister, our system, our political system is so much lopsided, where it is always the government, the state, that decide most of the matters. And the other two major stakeholders, i.e. the business sector and the civil society, are playing second fiddles. I'm a reluctant politician. I was president of the Malaysian Youth Council from 1998 to 2002. The only reason why I joined politics is because I have reached a stage and I realized that the system does not really acknowledge voices from the civil society. And I think I need to change the system, and that is why I joined politics. If I'm living in the UK or in Australia, I probably don't join politics because the system recognizes the role of the civil society better. Now, things have changed. Dato' Najib has changed it. If you remember, Dato' Najib, on many occasions, have said that gone are the days when the government is the do-all and the be-all and the know-all. No, that is a very explicit way of admitting, which is important, that the other stakeholders have a bigger role to play in nation building. Now, so a new governance framework is when the state, the business, and the civil society work together as genuine partners in decision-making processes. The third thrust of new politics is innovation in democracy. Most people, especially the young, don't like politics. If you read literatures written by Graham Smith, John Keane, Russell Dalton, scholars are saying that most young people are cynical and skeptical towards politics, but they still have faith in democracy, provided democracy is transformed, and that's exactly what Dato' Najib is trying to do. Now, what is meant by innovations in democracy? Innovations in democracy means we want to widen the platform for people to participate in decision-making processes. That is why, for instance, we allow students, or rather we encourage students, like in the context of University Science Malaysia, to form Parliament Mahasiswa. And KBS have convened the first Parliament Belia last year. These are innovations in democracy. When Dato' Najib became Prime Minister, he wants to introduce the GTP, the Government Transformation Program, the EPP, and so on and so forth. But if you realize that Dato' Najib have introduced a new way of making decisions. When Tun Mahathir was Prime Minister, he wanted to launch Wawasan 2020. All it takes was one speech and one presentation of the speech to one meeting. The Business Council meeting, there was a speech, and that becomes Dasar Baru. During Pak Lah's time, he wanted to introduce Islam Hadari. 2 or 3 groups of people were commissioned to think through what Islam Hadari mean, and then 2 or 3 or maybe 4 or 5 seminars were organized over a period of 3 to 6 months, if I'm not mistaken. Then he launched what is now known as Islam Hadari. Cara Tun Mahathir dan cara Datuk Pak Lah, Tun Pak Lah, itu sesuai dengan zaman dia. Datuk Najib realized that times have changed, the political landscape has changed, he has to do it differently. So, a team was formed, of course under Idris Jala, and then one of the first things that they do was to look at the thousands of letters from readers to the editors, because Datuk Najib wants to understand what are the complaints from the people, from the rakyat. And then surveys were done. He invited people to write to his blog, to his SMS numbers. And then suddenly we hear there was this proposal for 6 NKRA. And then a lab was established involving about 800 to 900 people, and they spent about 3 months intensively discussing the issues. I thought after that he will launch the GTP. I'm just giving you GTP as an example, the process, the innovation in democracy that was taking place. Upon completion of the Pemandu report, he didn't launch it yet. Instead, he did an exhibition in Kuching, in Kota Kinabalu, and in Kuala Lumpur. About 25,000 people came. Some give feedback. They saw, they came, they give feedback. In total, close to 200,000 Malaysians from all walks of life, from all sectors, involving all stakeholders, were engaged. We hear them out. And only after we have done all this, then only Dato' Najib launched the GTP with the first 6 NKRA. Now you have the 7th NKRA. The EPP process was quite similar. This is an innovation. The lab itself is an innovation because innovations in democracy means you widen the participation of people in decision-making processes, and because of that, you need to initiate new platforms. Okay? The fourth and the final thrust of new politics is about progressive political thoughts about the things that we want to do. Say, for instance, we believe in a good society. Say, a good society is the way we want to define and add value to Gagasan Satu Malaysia. Now, what is a good society? What are the thrusts of the good society? Is it based on knowledge? Is it based on building of new civilization? Is it based on ethics? What are the philosophies? And so on and so forth. Now, we need to think through. We need this kind of debate, this kind of discourses for us to think through, share ideas, share knowledge, until we come to an agreement, or at least to some kind of agreement that this is the way to do it. I'll give an example. When we decide to review our education policy, those days we appoint some experts and they go somewhere, probably Genting Highland, Lowland, tak kira lah di mana saja. And after a couple of weeks, they probably come up with a blueprint, send it to the Minister of Education, Minister bring it to the Cabinet, and then you get an announcement, here is the Laporan Muhyiddin. We don't do it that way. We don't do it that way anymore. 14 town hall meetings involving 26,000 people. Now that sounds like innovation in democracy, which is yes, it is an innovation in democracy, a new way of making decisions involving thousands of people. But the research that was carried out before the town hall meetings, the discussions, the survey, and what have you, intense knowledge-oriented way of making decisions, so that we arrive at a clear thoughts about what needs to be done for the next 15, 20, or 25 years in as far as our education is concerned. And Dato' Sri Khalid, my boss, the Minister of Higher Education, last Tuesday announced that we are going to review the Plan Strategic Pengajian Tinggi Negara starting this month and should be ready by, say, for instance, September. So somebody was asking me, Dato', why is it that Dato' Sri Khalid announced that we will start reviewing the higher education strategic plan in February and very confidently announced that it will be ready by September? Because, inshallah, in all humility, we are very confident that BN will win the GE13. No, I'm not here to campaign for BN. Now, all I'm saying is we have to do things in a more professional manner. We need to have new approaches in the way we go forward, and inshallah, we will be more successful in the future. So, saudara pengurusi, cukup dululah untuk pusingan yang pertama, dan terima kasih kerana tidak menjerit kepada saya.
Don't worry, Dato'.
Assalamualaikum.
You will have a Q&A session later. All right. Going on to the second panelist, Dato' Khairun. New politics equals to changes in the way we do politics. Are we being idealists, or is it realistic that we make these changes, given that we, the young generation, we are still young, and there is a lot more for us to learn?
Okay.
Thank you.
That's a hard one. Alhamdulillahillazi anzala ala al-abdihil kitaba wa lam yaj'al lahu iwaja qayyiman liyunzira ba'than shadidan min ladun wa yubashshiral mu'minin. Allahumma salli ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ahlihi wa sahbihi wa sallim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh dan salam sejahtera. Saudara Aiman Haziq, of course, like you guys, Aspire Leader of Malaysia, Minister Saifuddin, my other Dato K, without the city, of course. I've checked. Committee members of this symposium, first and foremost, I would like to express my profound gratitude to all of you, because I've attended or been invited to many talks and symposiums. I have to admit, this is one of the best organized symposiums that I've ever attended. Thank you, well done. When they emailed me the fact sheet from your think tank unit, I thought it was much more comprehensive from what we always do. So these are also indications that human capital development in Malaysia is stepping in place. I like your question just now, Aiman. Change, very popular word, often hijacked and manipulated. And change. Somebody won an election in America because of change. And many other people have tried the level best to sell change, to regain votes and power. Today, we also see change in the Middle East. I don't think I need to elaborate any further about the details of change in the Middle East. But I also remember change in Iceland in year 2004. Iceland, being a Western country, chose to change in 2004. But the agenda of change was profound. They moved their people for a revolution. A revolution against the political elites. And heck, the government collapsed. Change because people were caused hardship. Inflation skyrocketed. Things are not easy anymore. So everybody took their pen, kuali, periuk, belanga, pergi Parlimen Iceland. Dan dia panggil, or they call the revolution, the kitchen revolution. And goes down the government. And they change. And recently I saw Davos 2013. Iceland is bucking up, doing quite well, recovering quite well. Because the country went bankrupt. Now, let's also revisit change in Ukraine and Georgia. I remember the Orange Revolution in Georgia. There was a call, massive movement, nationwide movement to democratize Georgia. And the movement was so rapid, new leaders installed and collapsed the political elites with the task to empower the new leader with a higher degree of democracy and a better civil society. The same change happened in Ukraine. They call it the Rose Revolution. a movement orchestrated, planned nationwide. Again, political elites collapse, a new leader installed with the hope of the new establishment of democracy and a better degree height of civic society. But let's ask ourselves, comparatively to Iceland, because the company or the state went bankrupt, let's ask ourselves what happened to Ukraine and Georgia today. Experts states Georgia, the civil society in Georgia remain weak. And the worst part, the degree of democracy in Georgia and Ukraine is backsliding. Therefore, this word change, it has to be corroborated with fundamental reform and transformation. It cannot be a hollow shout of change. Now, I remember in 2008, many months before the prior general election in Malaysia, it was inevitable for the government then to increase or to lift fuel subsidy then. As a result of that, the fuel skyrocketed to 21%. Saya masih ingat betapa seksa dan terperanjatnya rakyat ketika itu. Bagaimana subsidi minyak terpaksa ditarik balik. Dan harga, semua harga barangan yang berkaitan dengan minyak mendadak setinggi 21%. Dan akibatnya, salah satu akibatnya, ketidakpuashatian tersebut dibawa ke peti undi. Begitu juga yang berlaku pada tahun 1969. Ketika almarhum Tunku Abdul Rahman memerintah dan memimpin kita, di saat daripada luarannya nampak baik, hakikatnya ialah khazanah ekuiti negara didominasi oleh kuasa asing dan bukan kaum bumi putera peribumi. Maka tercetuslah huru-hara kerana ketidakadilan ekonomi ketika itu. Seterusnya, saudara, dalam waktu yang sama, di Malaysia, kita kena tanya juga apa dia change yang disebut. Dari segi struktur, kita, di dalam parti kita, we will go all out to protect and uphold the Constitution. Maknanya, struktur politik negara kita mesti berlandaskan kepada perlembagaan negara. Dan saya fikir, kalau kita semua dalam Dewan ini, bakal-bakal pemimpin, bakal-bakal orang yang memimpin orang macam saya nanti, kalau kita tak boleh faham artikel demi artikel dalam perlembagaan negara kita, I think that call for change will be a hollow one. Saya sebut ini sebab kita berjuang atas naluri rakyat. Kita sanggup ubah perlembagaan kita, pindah perlembagaan kita untuk rakyat. Saya bagi satu contoh. Krisis perlembagaan dengan raja-raja. Bukankah kerajaan ini demi kepentingan rakyat? For the people's interest. Because at that time, we found one of our ruler was being a little bit rude with our people. So we told ourselves, we cannot protect oppressive rulers. Therefore, we amended the Constitution. And you know what? We provide a special court to try rulers. And furthermore, let me refresh you. There are case law regarding it. There was one case presided by Tun Abdul Hamid, Chief Justice as he then was. A ruler was tried before the court of special courts of Malaysia, and the decision during the trial was against the ruler. The ruler complied and adhered. Now we did it in the interest of democracy. Again, change, structurally, we often asked our rivals out there to present a specific change plan. Now, are we saying, or we, for that matter, challenge consistently the opposition whether that change is to change the structure, in essence, to change the structure of the Constitution? Is that change is to abolish Part 3 of the Constitution? Is that change to compromise and abolish 152, 153, 181 of the Constitution? Because from the political rhetorics down there, it seems of that sort. Now, if you offer a better product, you must be responsible with it and provide a specific detail regarding that new product. That's why I find it a little bit amusing when policy changes apparently dragged into mainstream politics and enticed the people or the rakyat to be confused with a structural problem. That's why when there's a popular call for the abolishment of car excise duty, people start to puzzle and became astray from what is the real issue. They forgot by the abolishment of the car excise duty, we'll be losing in billions in terms of revenue. And with the billions of revenue that we have collected during this policy, we use that to introduce people-oriented projects and schemes, and the money goes back to the people. Again, ladies and gentlemen, while we celebrate a higher degree of civil society, just now in the holding room, I was telling chairman, moderator, we are pressing the government to be more balanced in political airtime in this upcoming general election. As you all know, we in UMNO Youth and also UMNO have been engaging actively in debates with the opposition party. And this, I think, proves that our civil society has reached to a near mature level. But nevertheless, this freedom that we enjoy today, I call it the digital revolution, must be equipped and corroborated with a responsibility and a degree of integrity like stated by Minister Saifuddin. Therefore, I am of the opinion, globally speaking, we in Malaysia, since, as you all know, economically speaking in the global world, the global is under Great Depression, and if we don't stabilize our political platform over here, since we are in the heart of ASEAN, straddled between China and India, and this century, as I've always predicted, going to be an Asian century, then we will lose a lot of opportunity to be a very much a global player in this global world. Therefore, I think many more to speak about later. I floated this idea of regime change and change. Inshallah, it's all up to us to be responsible leaders, and I believe you all can share and we can communicate after this in the question and answer. With that, for now, I thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you to Dato Khairun. Now going to Dato Kamarul. Politics does not only apply to political parties. With the new approach, new politics, the government have their ETP, GTP. Does this help to boost the nation's economic and world's confidence on our country? Please welcome Dato Kamarul.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahillazi arsala rasulahu bil huda wa dinil haq liyuzhirahu ala dini kulli wa kafa billahi shahida wa bi Muhammadin nabiyya wa rasulah. Thank you, Aiman. Yang berhormat Datuk Saifuddin Abdullah, Minister of Higher Education, yang berbahagia Datuk Khairun Aseh from Pemuda UMNO Malaysia, committee members, and also adik-adik, kakak-kakak, abang-abang. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good afternoon. First of all, I would like to stress out that I'm not a politician. My background, non-political at all. But I think maybe because this is a spark of a new politic dimension, so I've been invited by the committee member to give a speak today probably from the corporate point of view. So in this case, I would like to thank the committee members for giving me this opportunity to speak in front of you today. Thank you. Well, actually I have a slide that I would like to share with you. Is it something that? No. Okay, all right. So what happened is that as a corporate, I found that the government of the day really looking after the people. In other words, the government doing all efforts to ensure that whatever people needs and requirements being accommodated in the sense of trying to gain not just only the support, but also looking after, caring people, and as what you know that this is what the BN government had done for the past 40, 50 years ago. But nevertheless, one thing for sure. Why? The reason behind it, because the BN government along this way is in the process of developing the country. And when they're developing the country, they are focusing on how to equip and provide some facilities, upgrading the infrastructure, and also giving better educations to the rakyat. So when they do that, when they did that, and of course at the end of the day, they want to ensure the objective in their policy, which is pro-business and also growth promoting factor, hence would lead to the situation like what we face at the moment. And Alhamdulillah, the government really success in doing that, and then now we are moving towards 2020 and aiming not just only to become as a developed country, but also a country where the higher capital income would exceed or similar to the US or other developed countries. So when the government did that and focusing more on developing countries, there is an emergence of the soft thinking among the society. Because the society being educated and because the society being growing up in that process, I mean, many of Malaysians citizens, Malaysian students particularly, had been sent over to overseas, to either to the west or to the east, or even to the Middle East. So when they coming back, they come up with a lot of ideas, a lot of thinking. Those educated in the Western will come with the idea of conservative, it come with the idea of labor, will come with the idea of human rights. Who are educated in the Middle East will focus more on religious, would focus more on developing moral aspect of the society. So in that case, that contributes, that mix up with a lot of ideas and ideology. And when it comes with the ideas and ideology, now people want to speak, express and share these ideas and ideology to the government. Well, for the past 10, 20 years, particularly when the government under the Tun Dr. Mahathir Mohamad, there is a situation where too many things happening during that time. Because we are in the process of developing the nation. So one thing, we are talking about civilization. If you can remember, there is an idea of building civilization. And also another part to become as a modern and sophisticated society. And this is where it focuses more in developing more entrepreneurs and also more industrialists among the society. So when that comes, now this is the time where during the Prime Minister, Dato Sri Muhammad Najib Tun Abdul Razak, had envisaged a new concept where he said clearly that the day when the government know everything had long gone already. Because this is the time now where the government have to include the people and allow particularly the young generations to speak and to express their views and ideology. Because from there, that would spark the innovative process, that would spark into the sharing of knowledge, that would spark into the dissemination of information, where at the end of the day, by having that knowledge, by having that information, and by having that innovation, then, of course, if we manage the process carefully and clearly, at the end of the day, will result a better benefit to the country as a whole. So this is what the government trying to do. And of course, during this process, there are a lot of criticisms. Not easy for the Prime Minister to make change and to introduce a new politics in the current scenario. Let's say, for example, maybe some would criticize our Prime Minister of allowing a lot of changes happening within the system. For example, the RCI issue, as you may know, and a lot of inquiries happening on the ground. But nevertheless, that really shows the current government put up a lot of effort to ensure that everything done in transparent, everything done in line with what the people want the government to change, what the people want the government to do, and what the people expect the government to perform. Because this is very important. At the end of the day, the government wants to get support from the people. The government wants young generations to be together with them. And this would not be happening if the government wouldn't allow for people like you especially to give views and to participate, particularly in policy making and as well as decision making process. I was remembered, I have my daughter, I have 8-year-old daughter, where my daughter, 8 years old, when I asked her a simple question. What do you think about your class? What do you think about your subject? What do you think about your learning process, you know? How do you feel? Do you like it? Do you enjoy your learning process? Do you enjoy with the teacher? Can you answer whatever questions being asked and so on? And then the response that I received from her, she told me that, Papa, I'm very boring, pretty boring. I said, oh no, why? She said, because teacher asked her a lot of questions, but she hasn't got the opportunity to ask questions to the teacher. I was so shocked. So I asked her, what kind of questions that you would like to ask to the teacher? And she said that a simple thing, like, how am I going to color this car, you know, in red or in blue? Or secondly, how am I going to tie up my shoe? And then how am I going to wear this dress? So a simple thing, but unfortunately they cannot ask the teacher. Simple thing. And I was so shocked, because if simple thing like that hasn't been allowed by the teacher, and only teacher can pose a question to them, but they haven't been allowed to ask or to give comments, then that would not be good in the long run. So that is why we need to embrace this new politics, and we need to support this new dimension. At the end of the day, we are looking forward to get more input and more opinion and new ideas from every people, every citizens in the country. But however, there is another dilemma from what we're going to face later on. And one of the dilemma is that when there are too many ideologies and too many ideas, and if each of you defending that ideology and that ideas, and you have a closed mind, you're not ready for any debates or any tolerance, you cannot accept others' views and opinions, then that would create a problem. I was remembered when President Barack Obama became the President of United States for the second term. One thing that he said, it is his task now to unite the Americans, because there are a lot of fractions in the American society nowadays, that too many ideologies and too many perceptions among the society had damaged the image and also the trust among the public. So his task is to unite and to ensure that by having this unity in diversity, then that would enhance and move forward the country into the next dimension. So the same thing in Malaysia. A lot of ideology coming around, either from Western point of view, or from religion point of view, or from secular point of view, and so on. But nevertheless, because we live in this country, as a nation, we live in multiracial country, so we are more complicated in a sense, try to create the balance between one to another. And how to create that balance? Of course, we have to be wasatiyah, kesederhanaan. This is very important. Because once you have that pragmatic tolerance and also understanding each other, when you embrace with the new politics under the concept of wasatiyah, I believe that we will move forward and this country will become more progressive, and we can achieve our Vision 2020 as what has been outlined by the Prime Minister. The government nowadays focusing on government transformation plan and economic transformation plan as the main ingredients to achieve Vision 2020. But it is in my view that maybe later on, the government might introduce social transformation plan in line with the new politics as what been mentioned by Yang Berhormat Minister. But nevertheless, before we go to that far, let us focus our effort into where it is very important for us to embrace the new politic in a more positive and in the most, in the most pragmatic way where we can develop an understanding between one to another. So from that note, I'm looking forward to hear your views and your ideas, and I think that's it from me. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum.
Thank you to Dato Kamarul.